Hi, everybody. Welcome to NewsNite for Friday, September 2nd. It's great to be back. Great conversation tonight. The Akron mayor's primary, now a little over a week away. We'll take a look at where the campaigns are going. Also, the downside, David versus Goliath when it comes to raising money for office. And whose job is it really to check out those concealed carry documents before they give someone a CCW? Those stories and more next on NewsNite. It is great to be back and great to have you with us as we return to our Akron studios and return to a great panel. Here with us this week, Ed Esposito from WAKR. Also great to have along Steve Hoffman from the Akron Beacon Journal. And great to have freelance contributor and journalist Jody Miller here with us this week. A great summer behind us. The election we've all been waiting for is now just a matter of days away. Has the summer played out in the Democratic mayoral primary the way you thought it would?
No, I actually think it's been far more quiet and reasoned and sensible and detached than I thought it would be.
But there are still 10 days left.
Yeah, I don't see the dynamic changing much at this point. The question, as Ed is alluding to early on, was how aggressive Michael Williams would be in terms of attacking the mayor. To me, he's been fairly moderate. He's put out his plans. In my opinion, they haven't been nearly specific enough to get him the kind of traction he really needs. So I kind of see the race as frozen right now. I mean, I think the numbers, the mayor's probably in the mid-50s at this point, somewhere in that range. And I'm not sure there's going to be much change.
Well, there are a lot of signs, but I'm seeing more Pasquale signs than I am seeing Mike Williams signs, if that's any indication. Well, okay, absolutely. And I think that a lot of this has played out behind the scenes in terms of the publicity. I know Mike Williams is really, really heavy on the internet. He's done an awful lot of video stuff. His 40-point plan to improve the city, that's all on video and it's all on his website. So it's interesting the kind of the shift I am seeing to trying to reach voters through social media or the internet. And I'm seeing it particularly with Mike Williams' campaign.
Ed, you thought it would be more aggressive?
I did. Just taking a look at the two personalities, I think the mayor's people have done a very good job of trying to present him in mayoral settings that don't offer an opportunity for him to blow his stack, which, from a political standpoint, I know, there are those that just, you saw this during the recall. This was the same strategy of put him in an official capacity and don't put him in a capacity where people see him as campaigning. Put him in a capacity where they see him as being mayorly. The issue is with Mike Williams, how do you get out in front of as many people as possible and put yourself in a campaign?
Yeah, I think we're going to get into the ground game here in the end. I mean, I don't think that at this point yard signs and being on the internet is going to do it. We're going to get a shift to a turnout model, and after the Finley experience 4 years ago, I cannot imagine that the mayor's organization is going to let turnout slip, and that's going to be a challenge for them because the perception in town is that the mayor's got this one in the bag. So he's got to be very careful. This is a chunk of the electorate, as we've said many times. This is a subset of the electorate. There aren't going to be a lot of independents or Republicans crossing over to vote in a Democratic primary. So you're talking about kind of a core group of Democratic voters, and you got to get them out. And I don't think they're going to make the mayor's people are not going to make that same mistake.
Of course, Janice Davis, of course, is the third of the Democratic candidates. A few weeks ago, we had a debate sponsored by the Akron Press Club where they all weighed in on a key issue, that being economic development.
The focus on foreign travel, that has to change. We have to focus in on our small and medium-sized businesses that are here in our community, that have provided the building blocks and have provided the strength for this community. Most of us know and remember when the rubber jobs left. What kept this community afloat were those small and medium-sized businesses, and we have not been addressing their needs and concerns. We have to establish close relationships with them. We have to do the kinds of things where we are anticipating and ahead of the curve in terms of anticipating their needs and growth, not reacting afterwards and trying to clean up something that is already a mess. We have to change how we function, and we have to do more focus on those small and medium-sized businesses.
The focus of our economic development has always been the 80% growth that takes place in every community from local small and businesses. But we also need to recognize, as Ms. Davis pointed out, that this is a global marketplace we live in. This isn't 1890. This isn't 1901. We have won a national award with the help of the Chamber. We've had a person in the Chamber since I first became mayor to work with small and medium-sized businesses. We have a call program that we send out business people from the Chamber to meet with small and medium-sized business. My opponent acts like he doesn't even know that that exists, and we've won a national award for that. It's been as long as I've been mayor that we have had this outreach program that has won a national award. But we also, as Ms. Davis said, we can't ignore $228 billion of reverse investment that came to the United States last year. We should be in that market.
Okay, economic development, always a big issue, but did anybody score enough points at this debate to really change how voters are going to go to the polls?
You know, I just, and Jody, and Steve, you were on the panel. Jody, you were in the audience. Eric and I were working for a living at that point.
Eric was there.
Actually, I ended up at Copley because of the shooting, which was a whole nother story, but a big weekend at the time. But enough points from anybody?
You know, I don't know if it changed any minds. I think people that probably went into it wanting to see if Janice Davis was a serious candidate or a train wreck. I think she acquitted herself fairly well. I would say that for the most part, the mayor kept himself from bubbling over too much. And I think Mike Williams pretty much presented what we've seen from Mike Williams before. So if anything, I think it was a reaffirmation of what people expected to see more than anything else.
Well, and I think the clip that we saw about the whole economic development issue is an issue that the Mike Williams campaign has tried to stress. You know, we need a mayor who is not only kinder and nicer, but who is in town more. Who doesn't travel all that far, and his whole economic development plan is geared toward the small and the medium businesses who are here. Whereas Don, I think, acquitted himself very well in terms of he may have traveled a lot. Not quite as much as maybe the Williams campaign would like voters to think, but that kind of travel has merited and brought into this community jobs and companies that you couldn't otherwise. You can't build those relationships necessarily long term. You got to go and you got to meet these people, and they've got to see you. So that has helped, I think, in the mayor's campaign.
The mayor actually got it. You know, the issue I think is sort of how you fit into a global economy, and I think the mayor did a pretty good job explaining that, saying this is what you have to do. These days, you can't just focus, and the city has done a good job through the Chamber of Commerce with existing businesses. There's no doubt about that, and I think the mayor stressed that in his comments, that yes, we have been paying attention, minding the store with the small and medium-sized businesses, but you also got to go and connect in a big way to this emerging economy, because foreign companies do invest here, and he got help with that from Davis.
Exactly.
She said, yeah, I agree, you got to do that.
I think this is a good discussion to have, though, because it relates to philosophical discussion. Should the Chamber of Commerce be leading this, or should the mayor lead this? I think it's a good issue to raise. Should the mayor be high profile as the spokesman for the city, as the salesman for the city? Is that really part of the mayor's job, or is the mayor's job to take care of business at home? That's something ultimately the voters are going to decide on in 10 days. But, you know, there are two different schools of thought. Both of them are valid depending on the particular times.
I'm just not sure anymore this was sort of the Joe Finley model of being mayor, that, you know, you keep the streets safe and make sure the trains run on time, if you will, and the rest of this stuff is not really the mayor's job. I'm afraid that for a city this size, in an economy like the one we're in, that traditional definition doesn't work anymore.
Jody, did Williams make a misstep by promising no layoffs if he's mayor of police and firefighters? Is that too much of a promise to make?
Yes, but I'm not sure. I think it resonates with voters, but because my problem with that kind of a comment is I'm not sure voters look beyond just say that point. You know, he has no way of knowing what the economy is going to be like. He's got no way of knowing what the city budget is going to be like. So to promise no layoffs is, if in fact he happens to get elected, he's boxing himself into a terrible, terrible corner for the future. But that's the kind of a comment that resonates well with voters, and I think that's what he was going after.
80% of the city's budget is salaries and benefits, and the bulk of that is the safety forces. So if you're not going to lay off the safety forces, he's way out on a limb, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, this is typical political posturing and political promises. I mean, it's, in Washington, you're looking at a president who promised unemployment would be at 8%. Right. He's haunted by that right now, and they're going to wear that around in his neck.
Let's finish that thought now as we move to the Internet. Of course, there's also a Republican primary involving Jennifer Hensel and Katie Marie Wilkins. We'll talk about this more as we move now to NewsNite.net.
For more NewsNite content, including extended discussions, full interviews, and the chance to speak your mind about the issues, join us online at NewsNite.net.
If there have been any fireworks at all, they came a few weeks ago at the Democratic primary debate when things got personal.
As mayor, you have failed to comply with the city's policies on travel and credit card use. How can you justify the use of a taxpayer-paid credit card for the purchase of airline tickets for your girlfriend?
Mr. Williams, you should be the last person using the word girlfriends in this room, in this crowd. Just let me say that. I used a credit card to hold a ticket because there was a problem with my credit card, and I reimbursed the city fully. Diane Miller Dawson, fully aware of it, fully disclosed that, and I fully paid the city back. This was about holding and doing my own travel on Expedia and holding a ticket so that we could get 2 tickets on the same airline. Try it sometime. Try to get an Expedia and try to book a plane once and then pull up Expedia to book it separately. Sometimes that same flight isn't there. I tried to save and get the lowest cost possible for the city of Akron as well, and I reimbursed the city fully. And I actually wrote down and have a lot of money that you're going to ask that question, so I was fully prepared. And anybody wants to come down to my office, we'll show you the records. It's fully reimbursed. There wasn't a penny lost. And again, Mr. Williams, I'll just leave it at that.
All's fair in love and war and politics, but girlfriends, was this out of bounds?
I don't know if it was out of bounds. It was just unnecessary. I mean, the mayor had a perfectly legitimate story to tell about booking this ticket, and he told it eventually. But it's like he reimbursed the city, is the short version of the story. But it's like he couldn't help himself. Before he launched into this perfectly valid explanation, he just had to jab Michael Williams. And I guess the thought was you inoculate yourself. By throwing that out there, it sort of neutralizes the whole girlfriend issue for both candidates.
Well, and sitting in the audience, you could have heard a pin drop. There was a collective... and it was, I think it was, in my estimation, out of bounds, absolutely out of bounds, and it did not need to be said, because there was a legitimate reason for this.
When you talk about the personal style, this is beyond the style of governance, but the style of politics and campaigning. This is the ugly Don Plisquelic that people don't like. This is the ugly Don Plisquelic that people go vote against. There was no reason to do this. The question was posed honestly. It's obviously an issue for some people. It's a question that any politician should have to answer. And the fact that the mayor launched an insinuation that Mike Williams had girlfriends in this sly, snide way, and then he backed off from it. We went and asked him later, "What did you mean by this?" And this is the type of ugly politics that it's unfortunate to see it come from a 7-term incumbent, or someone who's hoping to be a 7-term incumbent. This is ugly. This is the type of reason why people don't run for politics, is personal attack crap like this.
And that's exactly what I was going to say. This is the kind of insinuation, comment, a statement thrown out there that turns people off from politics entirely. They just shut down, because there's so much of this kind of stuff going on, and It's almost like you become immune to it and you just don't want to hear it.
Was it the topic? Was Mike Williams bringing up the whole travel thing? Is that what caused Plisquellic to punch early?
No, it was the word girlfriend. If Mike Williams had asked the question and said, with your companion, it would have been different, although he might have touched off anyway. I think the mayor was clearly loaded for bear. He thought he was going to get a question, and he heard the word girlfriend and right away thought that, okay, someone's taking a punch at me, which is what he told us. If someone, I didn't start this. Again, if you go back and listen to that, if you're watching us on TiVo, if you go back and listen to it, the question was clearly about, reimbursing the city or the city's travel policy, and the fact is it was his girlfriend at the time. I asked Williams point blank on the radio, are you saying the mayor shouldn't have a girlfriend? I can't believe you would do that. He says, I'm not saying that at all. The question was about the travel policy. I still didn't get an answer to it.
I think, the mayor has been taking hits, not necessarily directly from Michael Williams, but he's been taking hits with the people sort of in that camp, if you will, the dissident camp. And my guess is that he heard, like Ed saying, he was looking for an excuse to jab back, and he had a little bit of an opening when Williams brought up the girlfriend and via the travel issue, and he just, like I said, he couldn't help himself. I've seen the mayor in other debates, and this is the danger that his handlers always fear, is that from the beginning, from his debate with Dave Meeker all the years ago, is that he'll lose it. And you could see him. It looked to me like after he finished his explanation of the credit card, shuffle, that I thought for a minute he was going to come back to the girlfriend thing, and I was just cringing. I thought, but he didn't. He kind of checked himself. I think he realized that this was a little much. But I do think he felt that he's been jabbed over this travel issue, which is also a girlfriend issue, and he just felt it was time to hit back.
And given the format of the debate, that was the last question that was to be asked, and there was no opportunity. Moderator Schultz, our colleague ML Schultz from WKSU, would not allow Williams to come back.
Well, she was following the rules of the
exactly,
debate.
Exactly. So that was the end of it.
So it ends like a soap opera with this cliffhanger. I really thought at the beginning of this whole race it was going to be Williams accusing Plisquellic of doing too much, Plisquellic accusing Williams of not doing enough. I don't know if either side has really made their case, but as we look at the money issue, which the Beacon Journal highlights this morning, the Plisquellic camp has a fortune compared to what Williams has been able to raise outside of giving himself his own loan. That clearly the camp's not going to have money to pay back.
Again, the benefit of being an incumbent and having a war chest that you've been able to accumulate over the years and years of campaigning. And that's exactly what the mayor is using. And additionally, as Steve pointed out in an editorial yesterday, there's another group here in Akron that, given the Supreme Court ruling last year, is now weighing in on this campaign, and it's a group of I think civic and community and business leaders who obviously feel that they want to make sure that the mayor is reelected, and they are in fact, Steve, what is it, the Partners for the Advancement of Akron's Future, and they are legally and legitimately allowed to, in fact, spend as much money as they want, and it's over $140,000 that they are putting toward the Plisquellic campaign.
To me, this, as I said the other day, I mean, this formation of this partnership, if you will, we'll see if it lasts, says two things. One, it says that the business community in Akron, the leaders of the business community, the hospitals, the Goodyear, there are a lot of corporate names on here. They have no confidence that Mike Williams can deliver on economic development. It's a stunning indictment of Mike Williams's and his 40-point plan. Number two, to me, it's the death knell of this ridiculous campaign finance system we have, going back to the Dollars and Democracy group in 1998. Obviously, people have decided these limits are so stupid that they have found a way around them. And so these campaign limits have become now, to me, meaningless.
Sure, absolutely.
They were too low. And this is what happens when you get two limits that are too low. People find a way around them.
Does Plisquellic really need to, Ed, spend a lot of money in these last 10 days?
Sure he does. He's, look, Ed, In the old days, if you were the emperor, you had an army to enforce your will. Now, if for the emperor of Akron, for the mayor of Akron, you have an army of dollars to help enforce your will. Whether it's so-called independent organizations made up largely of friends and people who are in the same camp as you, or not. So, having this war chest, it's, who's got more bullets? Plisquelic has more bullets available to him.
We'll see how the money spends out as we look toward the election again next week, also here on NewsNite.
On NewsNite.net, we cover a broader range of topics than we can on the air in 27 minutes. Be part of the conversation on our Facebook page and at NewsNite.net.
Again, you can watch this broadcast again or see our extended interviews over on NewsNite.net, and also check out our blog to see behind the scenes of our first week back, returning back to Akron. Last few minutes of the broadcast this week. Yesterday, news from the sheriff's office that a local guy running his NRA certificate, gun safety certificate clinic, it was bogus. They weren't getting the training they needed. 200 people here in Summit County have seen their CCW licenses suspended. This shine a light on a bigger problem of oversight with who's getting these licenses?
So now you need a certificate to give certificate.
Well, but you should have to have a certificate to get a certificate. I mean, the interesting thing from my perspective in this is the young man from Greene, the young Mr. Warmus. Matthew Warmus, who shot the parking lot attendant in Cleveland at a Cavs game, had his concealed carry permit from this man.
Now, he got his gun safety certificate.
Yes, right. that qualified him to go down to the sheriff's office and get his concealed carry permit.
So are you saying the other 200 people now are all just untrained killers stalking the streets now?
You know what, Ed? That could very well be the case. Because, no, wait a minute. Wait just 1 minute. In a certificated, Ed, I'd like you to look at something here. In a certificated, licensed, concealed carry program, you would have learned that, in fact, deadly force, and when deadly force, in fact, can be used. And yes, after some disagreements that we had on air last spring, Dulio, our producer, Dulio decided that we would do a program on concealed carry and what, in fact, it requires, how you get your concealed carry weapons permit. And at the end of this month, toward the end of September, we are going to do a documentary about concealed carry and what the training involves. Because legitimate trainers run classes like the one that I went to, where you have 10 hours of classroom instruction and 2 hours on the range time before you even get a certificate that allows you to go down and apply for a concealed carry permit. What you learn in that course is that only deadly force can be used if you are concealing and carrying. You can't pull your gun and shoot somebody because you're mad at them. A legitimate course stresses that you have to be in danger for your life or your well-being, or someone who you love has to be in danger. And that's the only time that a legitimate instructor will tell you that you can, in fact, pull your gun.
So, Ed, Jody now has the ability to start packing heat out there.
I do. I have my license.
You may be packing heat right now. I want to know how good your aim is before I say my next line.
I think her aim is probably pretty good.
Actually, the program will show it was scary as all get out, because my aim.
It was scary because you're good?
No, it was scary because I'd never really handled a gun before, and you have to. Your aim, you get 100 rounds, and you have to get 85% of those rounds in the target. I think I got 86% in the target because it was going all over the target.
Too close for my comfort.
I'm no fan of this expansion of concealed carry that we seem to be on a bent to do. But I will say, in fairness to the gun lobby, which is very powerful in Ohio, and they push every button that they can politically. They're very good at it. We haven't had the Wild West erupt because of concealed carry weapons. On the other hand, this incident that Jody talked about up in Cleveland, the parking lot attendant and the young man that they got into a scuffle. Now, they both had a permit to carry a concealed weapon. How tragic. Normally, this would have been a fist fight, maybe. The police would have come. Instead, someone's dead. And the idea that the average person, even someone who's gone through training, is going to somehow intervene in a way that's going to prevent a crime from happening as it's transpiring is ludicrous. I mean, are we going to have people in the parking lot of Summit Malls accosting someone who's trying to take Mrs. Fabitz's purse? They pull out their weapon. Then what happens? Well, I mean, this is nuts.
The other thing, and one of the reasons that we did go in fact go forward with this is because on September 30th, the concealed carry law in the state changes, and that now is going to be expanded where if you are a concealed carry weapon permit holder, you can in fact go into a place. Concealed carry will be allowed in a place that serves alcohol, whether it's a stadium, a restaurant, or a bar. And there are a lot of people who are opposed to that. Even some concealed carry owners don't feel that alcohol and guns mix, not like alcohol and driving.
And we only have a little over a minute left, but the issue that came up this week was that some 200 people hadn't really gotten the training that they needed.
Right. And their licenses will...
So now their licenses are suspended and they go get the training that they had before. But to get back to your the attack from both of you on concealed carry as though it's this bugaboo, would Matthew Warmus have been packing a gun anyway, whether he had a concealed carry or not? I don't know. But to use that as an example of why concealed carry is wrong, I think is a big disconnect from reality.
Well, and I'm not going to disagree with you, because the one thing I found out in this program is the concealed carry permit holders are responsible gun owners. They really are. They want to keep that license, and they're not going to do anything that's going to take that gun away from them.
You sound like you've had an awakening here of sorts.
For me, it has been, because I was so opposed to this to begin with, but I have a greater respect for people who go through the process and go through it correctly. Yeah. And continue their training and are responsible gun owners.
Well, obviously
I don't agree with it, but I have respect for them.
We have two exceptions to the training up in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Didn't exactly work in that case.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing that later.
Later this month.
And I know we could talk about this for some time, but these 200 people, the sheriff's office said, some cases, just met the guy at the internet cafe, gave him money, he gave him a certificate. Clearly, they didn't have the training. Jody, Steve, Ed, great to have you along. Great to see you guys again. Great to have you with us as well. As Newsnight returns here to our Akron office again, you can watch this broadcast again and catch our extended editions, including our blog, over at newsnight.net. See you next Friday.